If you had told anyone 5 years ago that the face of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the man who breathed life into Tony Stark and launched a billion-dollar empire, would return not as a hero, but as the greatest villain in comic book history, they would have called you crazy. But here we are. The announcement has been made. The mask has been lifted. Robert Downey Jr. is Victor Von Doom. While the internet is drowning in theories about the multiverse and variants, most people are missing the point. This isn't just a stunt. This is a story that has already been told. Hidden within the pages of modern Marvel history are two specific storylines that act as the perfect blueprint for this exact scenario. We aren't just looking at a what-if scenario. We are looking at a character study that deconstructs the very idea of Iron Man. To understand why this casting works, and to understand the terror that is coming to the MCU, we have to ignore the movies for a moment. We have to open the pages of two definitive comic runs, infamous Iron Man and What If? Iron Man, Demon in an Armor. These aren't just stories about men in metal suits. They are stories about identity theft, about redemption born from arrogance, and about the terrifying thin line between a savior and a dictator. Today, we are going to do a complete deep dive into these two sagas. We are going to walk through the panels where Victor Von Doom tried to become Iron Man and the timeline where he stole Tony Stark's life. By the end of this, you won't just understand the hype, you will understand the tragedy. Let's begin with infamous Iron Man, a 12-issue masterpiece written by Brian Michael Bendis with art by Alex Maleev. To understand this story, you have to understand where Victor Von Doom was mentally when it began. For decades, Doom's motivation was simple. He wanted to rule the world because he genuinely believed he was the only one fit to do so. He had achieved godhood multiple times. In the 2015 Secret Wars event, he literally saved the multiverse and ruled as God Emperor Doom. He had ultimate power. He reshaped reality. And you know what happened? He failed. He realized that even with the powers of a god, he was unfulfilled. When Reed Richards eventually defeated him, Reed didn't kill him. He did something worse, or perhaps something better. He healed him. Reed Richards restored Victor's face. For the first time since college, Doom wasn't scarred. He wasn't hiding behind a mask. He was just a man. And shortly after this, the Second Civil War happened and Tony Stark fell. The world believed Iron Man was dead. His body was gone, his consciousness trapped in a digital preservation unit. The world was without an Iron Man. And Victor Von Doom, a man who had conquered nations and gods, looked at that void and decided to fill it. This is where infamous Iron Man begins. It doesn't start with a battle, it starts with a conversation. We see Victor tracking down a C-list villain, the Diablo, but Doom isn't wearing his green cloak. He isn't wearing the terrifying spiked armor. He is wearing a suit. He looks like a businessman. He looks like Tony Stark. He defeats Diablo effortlessly, not with magic, but with technology. And when he stands over the defeated villain, he doesn't monologue about Latveria. He simply hands him over to S.H.I.E.L.D. This is the first crack in the glass. Doom isn't trying to conquer, he is trying to help. But why? The series takes us to a Stark Industries facility. We see Victor Von Doom holding an Iron Man helmet. The art by Alex Maleev is crucial here. It's moody, shadowy, and grounded. Doom looks at the helmet not with jealousy, but with contemplation. He realizes that Tony Stark, for all his flaws, had something Doom never had, the love of the people. Doom had fear. Stark had admiration. So Victor does what only Victor can do. He modifies the armor. He creates a suit that is a perfect hybrid of Stark tech and Latverian magic. It is sleek silver with a glowing green arc reactor. He puts it on, and for the first time, the Iron Man that flies over New York isn't a hero. It's a former dictator trying to wear a hero's skin. The brilliance of this comic run is how the world reacts to him. When Ben Grimm, the Thing, one of Doom's oldest enemies, finds out that Doom is calling himself Iron Man, he doesn't buy it. He hunts him down. This leads to one of the most poignant conflicts in the book. You have to visualize this. The Thing, a man who has been tormented by Doom for years, standing in front of this sleek silver Iron Man. Ben Grimm is ready to kill him. He screams that this is just another scheme, another game, but Doom just takes the hits. He doesn't fight back with lethal force. He uses the armor to protect himself, to contain Ben. He tries to explain, I am not the man you knew. But how do you erase a lifetime of villainy? This is the core question RDJ's Doom will likely face. In the comic, Doom visits Amara Pereira, a brilliant scientist whom he has developed feelings for. It's a rare moment of vulnerability. He admits to her that being a god was boring. He admits that being a villain was repetitive. He wants to try something new. It's almost sociopathic in its logic. He's treating heroism like a hobby to master. But as the story progresses, we see cracks in that armor. We see him actually trying. He saves civilians. He stops heavy hitters. There is a scene where he fights the mad thinker. The thinker runs the numbers and says, "There is a 99% probability you will betray everyone." Doom just blasts him and says, "I like those odds." But the real conflict comes when the AI version of Tony Stark gets involved. Imagine a hologram of Tony, possessing all his memories and personality, staring down Victor Von Doom in an Iron Man suit. The dialogue here is electric. AI Tony is sarcastic, skeptical, and furious. He accuses Doom of stealing his legacy. Doom counters by saying he is elevating it. He tells Tony, "You tried to save the world, but you were limited by your humanity. I am not." This dynamic is what we need to see on the big screen. The ghost of the hero arguing with the monster who replaced him. Doom eventually convinces the AI to let him continue, largely because the AI realizes that Doom is currently the most effective protector Earth has. It's a pragmatic, cold decision, exactly the kind Tony Stark would make. What makes infamous Iron Man so powerful and so different from a standard Iron Man story is how Doom fights. There is a sequence where he is ambushed by a group of villains led by the Hood. These are street-level criminals using stolen mystic tech. A normal Iron Man would use repulsors. He would use uni-beams. Doom does that, but he weaves it with sorcery. We see magical glyphs forming around the repulsor nodes. He casts shielding spells to reinforce the armor plating. It is the perfect marriage of the two pillars of the Marvel Universe, the supernatural and the technological. The Hood, obsessed with power, tries to break Doom psychologically. He brings up Doom's past, his failures, his mother. And this is where the redemption arc hits its peak. Doom doesn't lash out in rage. He doesn't destroy the city. He focuses. He saves the civilians caught in the crossfire first, then he dismantles the villains. There is a specific panel that defines this run. Doom is floating above the city, his cape billowing, the silver armor shining in the moonlight. He isn't looking down with contempt. He is looking down with vigilance. For a brief moment, you believe him. You believe that Victor Von Doom could actually be the greatest Avenger. But a tiger cannot change its stripes forever. The tragedy of infamous Iron Man is that the universe refuses to let him change. Mephisto, the demon who held his mother's soul, intervenes. He mocks Doom's attempt at heroism. He reveals that the redemption is a lie Doom is telling himself. The climax of the series isn't a fistfight, it's a battle for a soul. Mephisto strips Doom's armor away. He burns his face, scarring him once again. He tries to drag him back to the darkness. And in that moment, Doom realizes something heartbreaking. The world will never accept him as Iron Man. The scar on his face is a permanent reminder of who he is. He puts the mask back on, not the Iron Man faceplate, but the cold iron mask of Dr. Doom. He returns to Latveria. The experiment failed. But for 12 issues, we saw what could have been. We saw a Doom who tried to be Tony Stark, and we saw that in some ways he was better at it. If infamous Iron Man was a story about a villain trying to be a hero, our second blueprint is infinitely darker. It is a story about the ultimate identity theft. To understand the sheer potential of Avengers, Doomsday, we have to look at a comic that many fans missed when it was first released in 2010, but which has now become the Rosetta Stone for understanding Robert Downey Jr. Return. The story is titled What If? Iron Man, Demon in an Armor. Now usually, what if stories are fun little diversions? What if Spider-Man joined the Fantastic Four? What if Hulk had a brain? But Demon in an Armor is different. It is a psychological thriller that answers a terrifying question. Is Tony Stark a hero because of who he is or because of what he has? The story takes us back to the beginning. We are at Empire State University. But in this timeline, Tony Stark and Victor Von Doom aren't just rivals, they are roommates, and the dynamic is immediately established. Tony is the golden boy. He's rich, he's charming, he's effortlessly brilliant. He parties all night and still aces the exam the next morning. Victor Von Doom is the opposite. He is intense, brooding, and desperate. He is a scholarship student from Latveria working himself to the bone just to keep up. He hates Tony. He hates him not because Tony is smarter, but because Tony doesn't suffer for his genius. To Doom, Tony squanders the gifts that Victor would kill to possess. And so Victor concocts a plan. It is arguably the most Doom plan ever written. He approaches Tony with a challenge. He claims to have built a machine that can expand the human mind, allowing them to communicate with the subconscious. He asks Tony to help him test it. Tony, being the trusting, arrogant genius he is, agrees. He straps himself into the chair. But the machine isn't a communication device. It is a mind transfer device. In a sequence that feels like it belongs in a horror movie, Victor Von Doom flips the switch. There is a flash of light, and when Tony Stark opens his eyes, he isn't in the comfortable, expensive clothes of a billionaire. He is wearing the tattered, second-hand clothes of a Latvian refugee. He looks in the mirror and sees Victor Von Doom's face staring back at him. Before he can scream, before he can explain, the man who now looks like Tony Stark, the man who is Victor Von Doom, smiles. He leans in and tells Tony that no one will ever believe him. He then uses the machine to wipe Tony's short-term memory, effectively erasing the knowledge of the switch. The next day, the new Tony Stark uses his influence to have his roommate expelled. The new Victor Von Doom, confused, amnesiac, and disgraced, is deported back to Latveria. The crime is complete. Victor Von Doom has stolen the life of Tony Stark. This is where the story becomes essential for understanding the MCU's future. We get to see what Victor Von Doom does with Tony Stark's resources, and it is chilling. In the main timeline, Tony used Stark Industries to build weapons, yes, but he eventually grew a conscience. He became Iron Man to protect people. But in this timeline, the man with Tony's face has no conscience. Victor, as Tony waits for Howard Stark to die, the implication is that he might have even hastened it, and then takes full control of the company. He doesn't build a suit to save people. He builds an empire to rule them. He buys out competitors, he bankrupts nations, and he turns Stark International into a global monopoly. He is ruthless, efficient, and unstoppable. He wears expensive suits, he dates supermodels, he smiles for the cameras. He plays the role of the playboy philanthropist perfectly, but behind closed doors he is a tyrant. But the most interesting part of this comic isn't the villain, it's the hero. We cut to Latveria to see what happened to the real Tony Stark. Trapped in Doom's body, stripped of his fortune, and living in a war-torn country, Tony Stark doesn't give up. This is the ultimate proof of his heroism. Even without the money, without the lab, without the name, he is still Tony Stark. He starts building. He uses scrap metal, old tractor parts, whatever he can find. He studies. He works his way up from a peasant to a scientist, eventually earning a doctorate. He essentially becomes Dr. Doom, but a good version. He forms a resistance against the corrupt government of Latveria. He creates a suit of armor, not a gold and red hot rod, but a heavy gray and green suit that looks remarkably like the classic Dr. Doom armor. But he doesn't use it to conquer. He uses it to free his people. The visual contrast here is staggering. We see a man who looks like RDJ wearing a red and gold suit, acting like a monster. And we see a man who looks like Dr. Doom wearing the mask, acting like a savior. Inevitably, their paths collide. Victor as Tony becomes jealous. He hears rumors of a genius in Latveria who has developed advanced technology. His ego cannot handle the idea that the man he stole everything from is still succeeding. So he suits up. He builds an armor. It's painted red and gold. It has the arc reactor. It looks like Iron Man, but it is filled with lethal weaponry. He flies to Latveria to destroy his old roommate once and for all. The fight that follows is a masterclass in character writing. You have the Iron Man shouting about power and superiority, sounding exactly like Dr. Doom. And you have Dr. Doom fighting defensively, using tactics and clever gadgets to disable his opponent, sounding exactly like Tony Stark. The real Tony Stark realizes he can't win a slugfest. The Stark resources are too vast, the armor is too advanced. So he uses his brain. He hacks into the Iron Man armor's frequency. He realizes that Victor, for all his genius, is arrogant. He relied too much on raw power and not enough on fail-safes. Tony disables the armor. The Iron Man falls from the sky, crashing into the Latverian soil. The man with RDJ's face is defeated, dragged out of the wreckage by the man in the iron mask. And now we reach the ending. The ending that I believe will be the emotional core of Avengers, Doomsday. Victor as Tony, defeated and humiliated, tries to make a deal. He looks up at the masked figure and says, "Okay, you beat me. Let's switch back. I'll give you your life back. You can be Tony Stark again. You can have the money, the fame, the Avengers. Just put me back in my body." The real Tony Stark stands there, his hand hovering over the mind transfer device. He looks at his old face. He looks at the life he lost. It is everything he ever wanted. All he has to do is flip the switch and he gets to be the Golden Avenger again. But he stops. He looks at Victor and says, "No." Victor is shocked. "What? Why? I stole your life." Tony replies, "You didn't just steal it, you ruined it." He explains that under Victor's control, the name Tony Stark has become a symbol of greed, corruption, and evil. If he went back now, he would be stepping into the shoes of a monster. The trust is gone. The legacy is poisoned. But, Tony says, looking down at his green armor, "The name Von Doom? This name is currently a symbol of hope in Latveria. I have done good work in this body. I have saved people. I have earned their respect." In a heartbreaking twist, Tony Stark decides to stay in the body of Dr. Doom. He chooses to remain a monster on the outside because it allows him to be a hero on the inside. He leaves Victor stranded in the body of Tony Stark, condemned to live with the reputation he destroyed. This story is the key. Think about the current state of the MCU. Tony Stark is dead. His legacy is sterling. He is the saint who saved the universe. But what if Avengers? Doomsday flips the script. What if the RDJ we see isn't our Tony? What if he is the Victor Von Doom from the Demon in an Armor universe? Imagine a Victor Von Doom who successfully stole Tony's life, lived as him for decades, maybe even faked a heroic death in his own universe, and has now come to the 616 timeline. He would have the face of our greatest hero. He would know the passcodes. He would know the technology. He would know exactly how to manipulate Peter Parker, Rhodey, and Pepper. But underneath the skin, he would be the monster. This allows Robert Downey Jr. to give a performance of a lifetime. He doesn't have to play a new character. He has to play a character who is pretending to be his old character. He has to play a wolf in sheep's clothing. And for the audience, the horror will be slow. We will want to believe it's Tony. We will want to believe he's back to save us. And scene by scene, line by line, we will realize that the man behind the eyes is something else entirely. This comic proves that the Tony Stark as Doom concept isn't just a gimmick. It is a tragedy about the cost of heroism. It posits that the face doesn't matter, the soul does. And in Avengers, Doomsday, the Avengers are going to learn that lesson the hard way. They are going to look into the eyes of their father figure and they are going to see their executioner. We have talked about a villain trying to be a hero. We have talked about a villain stealing a hero's body. But there is a third option. An option so dark, so violent, and so perfect for the MCU that it might just be the answer we are looking for. This brings us to our final comic book blueprint, the Iron Maniac. This story comes from Marvel Team-Up Vol. 3, specifically issues 2 through 24. And unlike the other stories, this one starts with a deception that mirrors exactly what Marvel is doing right now with the movie marketing. In the comic, the Fantastic Four are hanging out in the Baxter building when suddenly a portal opens. Out steps a figure. He is wearing gray armor. He has a green cloak. He has a metal mask. To Reed Richards, to the Human Torch, and to the reader, there is no doubt. This is Dr. Doom. A massive fight breaks out. This Doom is brutal. He isn't just trying to capture them, he is trying to dismantle them. He fights with a desperation that the normal Victor Von Doom rarely shows. Eventually, the Fantastic Four, aided by Doctor Strange, manage to crack his armor. They rip the faceplate off. And under the mask of Dr. Doom, they don't find the scarred face of Victor. They find the scarred face of Tony Stark. This character is Anthony Stark from Earth 5012, and his backstory is a nightmare scenario that could easily be adapted to explain why the MCU needs RDJ back. On his Earth, there was no endgame victory. There was a war against a cosmic entity named Titanus. The Avengers didn't win. They were slaughtered. This Tony Stark watched Captain America die. He watched Thor fall. He watched his world burn, and the trauma broke him. He decided that the soft methods of the Avengers were failures. He decided that to save the world, he had to rule it. He adopted the aesthetics of Doom not to honor him, but because on his world, he had killed Dr. Doom and taken his tech. Why is this specific version of Tony Stark, the Iron Maniac, so important for Avengers? Doomsday, because of his relationship with the Fantastic Four. In the Earth 5012 timeline, Tony Stark hates Reed Richards. He blames Reed for the destruction of their world. The rivalry is so intense that this Tony Stark actually killed the Human Torch of his universe. Think about the movie Avengers, Doomsday. We know the Fantastic Four are making their debut. We know Joseph Quinn is playing the Human Torch. Imagine the cinematic tension if the main villain isn't just a stranger, but a version of Tony Stark who looks at the new Human Torch and says, "I remember when I killed you." The Iron Maniac is a terrifying physical threat. In the comics, he is eventually captured and held on a SHIELD helicarrier. But you can't cage a Stark. He hacks the systems. He builds a new suit out of life-model decoy parts. And when he breaks out, he doesn't make quips. He doesn't make jokes. He murders his way through the crew. This is the dark mirror theory. If RDJ plays the Iron Maniac, he isn't playing a hero who went bad. He is playing a survivor who lost his humanity. He represents what our Tony Stark could have become if he hadn't snapped his fingers, if he had chosen survival over sacrifice. So we have three blueprints. 1. The infamous Iron Man, a Doom who tries to be a hero but is rejected by the world. 2. The Demon in an Armor, a Doom who steals Tony's life and body to build an empire. 3. The Iron Maniac, a Tony Stark who breaks bad and becomes a dictator. Which one will it be? The answer, I believe, is a synthesis of all three. Kevin Feige and the Russo brothers rarely adapt a comic one-for-one. They take the best elements and remix them. Here is the most likely scenario for Avengers: Doomsday. The movie will introduce us to a Victor Von Doom who feels familiar. He will have the wit, the charm, and the arrogance of RDJ. He might even claim to be a variant of Tony to gain the Avengers' trust. He will offer them a solution to the incursions destroying the multiverse. He will present himself as the infamous Iron Man, a savior. But slowly the cracks will form. We will see the demon in the armor element, the realization that his help is actually a hostile takeover. He won't build a suit of armor around the world to protect it. He will build Battleworld to own it. And finally, when the mask comes off in the third act, we will get the Iron Maniac energy. We will see a man who looks like our Tony, but who possesses none of his heart. A man who looks at Peter Parker and feels nothing. Ultimately, the return of Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom is the boldest narrative risk Marvel has ever taken. It's not just about ticket sales. It is about challenging the audience. For 15 years, we have been conditioned to see RDJ's face and feel safety. We hear his voice and we feel hope. Avengers, Doomsday is going to weaponize that love against us. When Dr. Doom stands on the battlefield, surrounded by the broken bodies of the new Avengers, and he speaks with the voice of the man who started it all, it will be uncomfortable. It will be tragic, and it will be cinematic gold. We aren't just watching a superhero movie anymore. We are watching a ghost story. The ghost of Tony Stark is haunting the MCU, and his name is Dr. Doom. The comics gave us the roadmap. Infamous Iron Man gave us the look. Demon in an Armor gave us the twist. And Iron Maniac gave us the brutality. Now it's up to Robert Downey Jr. to bring the nightmare to life. And frankly, I don't think the Avengers are ready. I don't think we are either.